Hey guys, in this video, we're going to talk about properties and we're going to talk about them using some real life kind of cute examples to help you. So the first one is associative property. So if you look at the word associative, you think about associate. Okay, so if you associate with someone, that means you're kind of with them or you kind of go with them. So here's a cute, funny example with Hunger Games. So we have Gale, Katniss, and Peeta. Gale, Katniss, and Peeta on both sides. So they're equivalent. But notice what's changed. In the first one, she's associating with Gale. In the second one, she's associating with Peeta. So associative property is where the order stays the same, always stays the same, and the parentheses changes. So again, you could have it switched where the parentheses is around Katniss and Peeta first, and then around Gale and Katniss second. That's okay. They're still equivalent. So associative property is when the parentheses changes. So for this one, the order, ways to remember, order stays the same. The associative property of addition is where that's going to be all addition signs. So see the example with numbers, 5 plus 2 in parentheses plus 4, and then 5 plus 5 plus 2 plus 4, and the 2 and the 4 in parentheses. Again, those are going to equal the same thing. You're going to do what's in the parentheses first, and then you're going to add. Again, it's going to equal the same thing. One with variables is right there. You can fill that in on your notes. So remember, the order stays the same and the parentheses changes. So associative property of multiplication is going to be the same thing, but instead with multiplication signs. So it's 2 times 3 in parentheses times 4, and then 2 parentheses 3 times 4 with the 3 and the 4 in the parentheses. And then there's an example with variables. So remember, the order stays the same. So why can't we do this with addition and subtraction and division? Well, the order matters with your subtraction and division. Remember, the order doesn't necessarily make a difference with the multiplication and addition. So for these ones, that's why it ends up equaling the same with either one with the parentheses. Okay, so associative property, the order stays the same. So make sure you have both of those filled in. The next one is commutative property. So commutative property, you can see you go from your house to McDonald's to school, and then you go from school to McDonald's to your house. So I always think about commutative property as your commute, okay? You are commute to work, you're driving to work, your commute is how your path is changing. So commutative property is when the order is changing. So CO, changing order, commutative, either one. So see it's 7 plus 10 plus 2 for addition, and then 7 plus 2 plus 10. So they all don't have to change order, but something has to change order for it to be commutative property. Commutative property, again, of addition is when it's the all addition, but the order is changing. So x plus y plus z, y plus z plus x. The order is changing. The next one is commutative of multiplication, is again the same numbers, just in a different order, all being multiplied. So 2 times 3 times 4, and then 4 times 3 times 2. Order is changing. Same with the variable, n times m times x, m times x times n. The order is changing. Identity property. So if you have yourself, you have your own identity, it still equals you no matter what. So identity property of addition, okay, you add a 0 to any number to get the same number. So it's still the same number. So 5 plus 0 is always going to be 5. X plus 0 is always going to be x. So identity property of addition is when you add 0. Identity property of multiplication is when you times it by 1. Because again, we want it to equal itself. So in order to get 6 to stay 6, you multiply it by 1. In order for x to stay x, you would multiply it by 1. So identity property of addition, you add 0. Identity property of multiplication, you multiply by 1. So 0 property of multiplication, you have a Starbucks, you multiply it by 0, and now you don't have a Starbucks anymore. So before we were getting identity property where it equaled itself, here is 0 property where it equals 0. So ways to remember, multiply any number times 0 to get 0. So 7 times 0 is 0. T times 0 is 0. So multiply anything times 0 to get 0. That is the 0 property. Distributive property. We've talked about this a little bit. So it's the twins' birthday and grandma sends a package, but grandma sends a package for both. So the package comes and multiplies by both the boy and the girl. So you could see that it's the package and then times parentheses, boy plus the girl, close parentheses. And then it's the boy times the package plus the girl times the package. So we've kind of talked about this. Hopefully it'll make a little more sense with the example. So we have 5 parentheses 3 plus 4. So it's 5 times 4, then plus 5 times 3. So remember that area model we kind of talked about? The 5 was the same in both, so you have to multiply it by both parts. Then here's an example with variables, 3 parentheses a minus b. Notice that minus, that's going to go in between. So it's 3 times a minus 3 times b. So remember, I always draw those little lines, like a line from 5 to 4 and then a line from 5 to 3, because you got to remember to do it times both parts. So I hope you enjoyed this video on properties. Make sure go back and pause and rewatch any parts you need to help you understand. Bye.